Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access. My name's Rob, and welcome back to the Tuesday checklist. With free-to-play Battle Royale shooter H1Z1 finally hitting PS4 this month, we got to thinking about some other games for which we waited a very long time, made worse by the fact we wanted those games so very badly. Holly's first up with a game that took so long to come out it changed its name and hardware generation.
So a game I've waited forever for should probably come as no surprise because I always get called out for mentioning Final Fantasy games, but it is Final Fantasy 15.
Yeah, we all waited a long time.
We all waited a really long time for it. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan and I absolutely loved Final Fantasy 15, so don't at me, like I don't care if you don't like it because I do. And my opinion is the only one I'm going to care about. I loved it. It's in my top 3. By the way, if anyone's asking, which you're not, but it is 8, 10, then 15.
Fight! Go on, Rob.
No,
shout.
We've done this too often, Rob, haven't we?
It's Holly's turn to talk. What's your number one? 7.
You almost said 9 then, didn't you?
That's right.
Yeah, you almost. Yeah, we don't have the same.
Okay.
But I absolutely loved it. And I think one of the things I loved about it was the focus on the brother-like relationship. So it wasn't that kind of JRPG cookie cutter story where, you know, you've got the white mage female and you've always got the main lead male and somehow they're in a relationship or they're not and they're chasing each other's affection, and it is so cookie cutter. But 15 put away with that because it really was about the friendship between the 4 guys, and the way it was delivered with even the little lines you'd hear when you're just walking through the world, and the world itself was beautiful. Yoko Shimomura's soundtrack was absolutely exquisite. Apocalypse Noctis, if you ever hear it live, is just absolutely incredible. There was just so much charm about 15. For me, it just didn't disappoint at all. And I'm actually super excited because Tabata has now started his own studio for Square, the Luminous studio, and he's taken the Final Fantasy, they call them BDs at Square, Business Development Units. So BD2 was the 15 team, and he's literally just taken them with him to start his own studio. And I remember asking him, like, what are you going to do if 15 doesn't sell? He's like, I'll probably be fired. Thank you, Tabata. But if it works, he's like, I want to do my own game. So I waited so long for 15. For me, it met all of the expectations that some young Final Fantasy fan with a crazy imagination that I've always been wanted. It just fulfilled all the dreams I had that it would be. It played great. I know it broke away from turn-based, but the reality is, as I've got older, I'm not so much into turn-based as I used to be, which is why I'm actually more excited for the Final Fantasy 7 remake, and I think I'll enjoy it more than I enjoyed 7 originally. So originally the game started as Versus 13, which was a continuation of the Final Fantasy 13 series, which had 13, 13-2 and Lightning Returns. By the way, Lightning Returns is amazing, top 5, fantastic
I like
stuff.
you telling Dave this.
Well, there's no point telling him, and you really don't care. You're currently wearing the Badger puppet, so you are checked out of this conversation, quite frankly.
So Final Fantasy 15 was originally announced as Final Fantasy 13
versus 13
on the PS3.
10 years before it was released as
Pretty
Final
much
Fantasy
10
15.
years, yeah. It's pretty much 10 years, yeah.
Wow.
And two different leads, 2 different teams. I don't really know what Versus 13's like end game, like what it was going to be like. We'd seen lots of tech demos and stuff, but we know, you know, from reading and watching the industry that tech demos don't necessarily equate to what you get when a game finally launches. But yeah, Tabata came in, swooped in, and I think he did a great job. Said, the friendship, it's all about friendship. I really liked that. I thought it was different. And Ignis, I liked Ignis.
So I had a few options here. The Last Guardian, obviously, but which I have, for some reason, not finished, even though I couldn't wait for that for the many years that it was on its way. I thought about doing Prey, actually, but I didn't do Prey.
Okay.
But then I also thought, what else along them lines, and I settled on Doom. And I think Doom was the longest. It's 11 years from Doom 3, which I didn't even like, right? So you're going back really to the 90s at that point, to a Doom game that I enjoyed, until we got New Doom. I've already made the joke that it could be called Noom, so I won't do that again. New Doom 2016, right? Yeah.
Yes.
And it was great again. And what was really interesting about it was, I think Doom to Doom 2, not really a lot of changes. Biggest change was that there was a shotgun with 2 barrels on it, which was great. I mean, I'm all for that. Doom 3 was that difficult kind of middle period for a lot of kind of games where it was, if you're going to do a first-person shooter, it kind of tried to make it a bit more of a world. There was more atmosphere, lots of lighting, almost a horror feel to it. I wasn't running down corridors really fast just shooting a shotgun at stuff from hell, so I was like very dubious about that. So what really made the wait, and during the wait there was a version of the game kind of got leaked and everyone was like, oh, this is interesting, this might work out. Like Holly was saying though, really anything you kind of see in development is subject to change. You kind of know that sometimes things are they're going in one direction and then very often they come back in. And if a game is in development for 10 years, it often means little teams are kind of working away on ideas, but the whole kind of studio hasn't coalesced into like one giant big effort. So I was not sure that I was ever going to get Doom, which spoke to me as someone who, can still now run through all 3 or at a push 4 original episodes of the very first Doom without dying. Like I wasn't going to get that feeling again. But I feel like 2016 Doom delivered that to me.
Did it feel like you had, when it came out, did you feel like, this is something I've actually been waiting for? Because it wasn't announced, was it? And then it came out, did you feel like, I did want to play this all along?
Yeah, from the first kind of trailer actually, I think that all my worries about the kind of the speed and the intent of the game were kind of put to bed. So much of it was like moving really quickly sideways, projectiles being launched at you that you could dodge rather than just, you being hit by, I think the fireball from the original Doom made strafing such an important thing that I think that Doom kind of moves in a way that other shooters don't. And I wasn't sure that in the age of, what we got like Destiny and Titanfall and Call of Duty and Battlefield, whether a Doom, something as straightforward as Doom, which is basically punching, hell in the face, could work. But no, I really do think it did. And I wasn't something I was, holding on for. I knew that there was like a Doom somewhere in development and it was a big title they'd probably try and bring back. But yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, it's back. It's for me. Let's do it. Doom. And then we did it. We doomed.
We're doomed.
A game I waited a very long time for was Kingdom Hearts 2. I remember the wait because it was a really agonising wait. I think the first Kingdom Hearts came out 2002. Kingdom Hearts 2 was 2006, 2007, I believe, maybe so 4 or 5 year wait.
That's a long wait.
And it was at a time where I wasn't, I was sort of a child going into an adult. I didn't really have a lot of money to spend on games basically, so I had to make do with the games that my mum, dad bought me at Christmas and stuff.
Robert?
Yes. Can I please have Kingdom Hearts 2? No, you can't. Anyway, I got Kingdom Hearts 2. I was at university when it came out. And it had been such a long wait, and I remember specifically waiting for it. I would just suck up every single bit of information about Kingdom Hearts 2 I could in the waiting period. Like I went online. It was in the days of really slow internet where you could hear the internet loading down the phone, that kind of time. And I remember specifically them releasing some CG trailers for Kingdom Hearts 2 that I wanted to watch so bad, and I think they were like 32 megabytes in size, and it took my internet about 2.5 hours to download this. And during that time, no one in my house could use the phone. Yeah. My mum was getting furious. Like she wanted to make a phone call, and it had been downloading maybe for 2 hours and 15 minutes at this point. It had maybe another 5 megabits to go out of it downloaded 27, 5 to go. Yeah. Please, just let me download this one bit. And it was like a 2-minute trailer, and I was like, oh, it was so worth it. It was so amazing. And then the game finally came out. And for the first 3 hours of Kingdom Hearts 2, it's like it's trolling you. Yeah. You don't play as the main character for the first 3 hours.
That's the only bit I played.
This other man called Roxas, and he's a completely new character, and you're playing this little story as him with his friends who are new as well. And you're like, oh, I've been waiting 5 years for this, and it's almost like they knew that everyone had been waiting, so they deliberately put this little build-up in there. And you play through maybe like 4 or 5 chapters of this prologue, you would call it, and in each little bit, you're drip fed a bit of story. You're given like a little hint that Sora might be coming into the game soon, and you're like, just give me that flipping game already. And it's maddening, but also amazing when you finally get to play as Sora. It kind of builds up into this big crescendo, and Roxas, the character you've been playing as for 3 hours, is like, oh, I guess that's me done now. And you sort of feel a bit sorry for him by the end. You're like, oh, Roxas, I'm sorry, you have to go now.
How long have you been waiting for Kingdom Hearts 3 now?
A long time.
How long has it been?
Over 10 years.
Over 10 years.
I mean, there have been plenty of Kingdom Hearts games in the interim period that have come out on...
Kingdom Hearts 2.pi. It's basically pi, isn't it? Like,
there was Chain of Memories, there was... you can get them all now on PlayStation 4. There's Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD, which has Kingdom Hearts 1 plus... Is it Birth by... I can't remember which game is in which collection, but all of the games that have come out on various different systems are now either playable or the story is watchable on PS4. We've had like 2.8 as well, which is like another little... We're nearly there! But Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't quite here. That has been a long way, but the wait for Kingdom Hearts 2 is always the wait that I remember, because I was so desperate for that game, so desperate for info on that game. And when I finally got the game, it made me wait another 3 hours until I could finally get Sora. But it kind of reveals him in this amazing way. And he's been like in cryosleep for in the period between 1 and 2. And he's still wearing the clothes from Kingdom Hearts 1, but he's grown up, he's like a teenager. And it does this really cool thing where the clothes are like really short and horrible on him and like don't fit. And it's just a really cool visual way of saying, that's how long you've been waiting. The distance from his shorts down to his ankles. Look how long and stupid that looks now. That's how long you've been waiting to play this game, and you get to play as Sora finally, and you get his new outfit, and it looks great. And his voice, it's Haley Joel Osment who voices Sora. And in the first game, he's still child. And in the second game, you know, his voice has dropped. So it's like, you know, it's like the character has also been waiting this entire time. And there's just an amazing correlation between what the game does and the amount of time you've been waiting for it that just makes it very memorable for me.
I think my entry is a new game for the Tuesday checklist, which is absolutely mental because it's probably one of the most iconic series in all of games.
Smarties Meltdown.
It's not Smarties Meltdown, Nath, you're close. It's Half-Life, and I didn't wait for Half-Life, but I did wait for Half-Life 2. What a wait. I absolutely loved Half-Life, the original. I remember playing a demo of it, which it wasn't actually part of the game. I realised when I finally got the game and played it, I played that demo over and over and over again. And I don't know why it's so good. It's hard to pinpoint it, and I'd love to actually maybe play it again, or I just loved it. I don't know if the shooting was particularly good. I think it was the mystery of it, like the actual, you know, the Half-Life game, because I'm thinking about this demo, but the game, what an incredible... Have you both played it? Rob's shaking his head, you've not played Half-Life. It has this amazing introduction where you are Gordon Freeman, the scientist, on his first day at work, and you kind of get on a monorail and you get introduced to the Black Mesa research site, and you have to, like, you know, there's all these kind of like really sciencey guys. They look a lot like you, but in white coats, and they're like, you know, go and get your hazmat suit on, and we're going to do an experiment, and blah 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 blah. It all goes wrong. It was this amazing kind of, like, at the time, as far as I can recall, it felt like, from the games I had been playing at that time anyway, it was like new kind of storytelling, you know. It was more like a film or a book. It wasn't obvious and straightforward. It was subtle, and even though, you know, it was kind of obvious where this was going, it was I just thought it was completely fresh. I loved Half-Life. Didn't love the end. Got into aliens, like we went to an alien planet. It was strange, but I couldn't wait for Half-Life 2. It came to PC 3 years before it came to PS3, and I was desperate to know where my favourite game had gone in that time. It was actually a 6-year wait I had for it to finally come to PS3 in the form of the Orange Box, which was brilliant because it included Episode 1 and Episode 2, which were 2 bits of kind of DLC for Half-Life 2. And Team Fortress, and Portal.
I mean, it's for the price of one.
Can you believe that? That's absolutely ridiculous. But I guess that was some small recompense for the massive wait that we had. And despite it being 3 years after it had come to PC, it still felt like it was at the top of its game. You know, it still felt new and fresh. It felt like it was competing with everything around it. It was such a development from Half-Life. Now there were like amazing use of physics, and the city you were in a much more of a much more bigger world, and like much more kind of like well designed and thought out world. This sort of weird dystopia, City 17. Part of this resistance, there was AI characters that you built real relationships with and like cared for. There's a huge robot, which I loved, and it was like just a massive adventure. There were vehicles, there were like gravity guns, there was like the kind of things, I don't know, I just don't feel like I'd seen before. They'd like pushed it forwards again, and it was brilliant. And I don't know that I've ever had that with anything else. Like that was a wait. That's probably the longest I've waited for a game that I can think of, and it completely paid off. Like it was in no way a disappointment. And bearing in mind this is a game that had already come out on PC 3 years before, and it was still like absolutely mixing with the big games of the time.
Do you think it's a coincidence that all of us have chosen games that we played when we were probably still at school or very slightly afterwards, and then waited for as we kind of moved into adulthood? Do you know what I mean? Or even just because your tastes are so fixed when you're that age, you're like, I want to recreate this thing.
Yes, I guess so. I mean, yes, but I don't think Half-Life 2, I don't think there's any kind of like, there was no nostalgia or anything.
No.
I mean, it was just brilliant, and I'll fight you if you say otherwise. No. But also, I guess, yeah.
I actually waited longer for Final Fantasy 15, but Holly's talked about that. And for Final Fantasy 12, there's a massive wait between Final Fantasy 10 and 12. 11 was an online game, so we don't talk about that.
Okay. That's the Final Fantasy 11 alarm.
How dare you! Sorry, Final Fantasy 11, but you didn't come out on PS2 in Europe, so what am I supposed to do? Siren me all you like. Let us know in the comments what games you waited seemingly ages for. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and join us again next week for another Tuesday checklist.